Welcome to Passionate World Talk Radio. Educate, enlighten, entertain. I'm Shannon Zeman, and thank you for joining us on the most important 15 minutes of your day, where we share expert information on safety and preparedness that you can use in your everyday life. When I was a kid, I loved to play hide and seek. You would search for the best spot where you could hunker down, feel safe, and not be found. Well, this is exactly what we want you to do in an active shooter event if you cannot run safely. Hide. In December, Troy and I broke down how to run in an active shooter event. So today we're ready to examine the second part of the run, hide, fight mantra, which is hide. What is the best way to hide? So we're going to start with this question and continue on. And Troy's going to enlighten us with his background of 25 years of police experience, and then we will chime in also with some of our personal experience. So Thank you for being here.
Well, thanks a lot. No, I appreciate it. That's a great question, though. What is the best way to hide? I mean, everybody knows how to hide, but in an active shooter, there are different tactics that you need to learn. Mm-hmm. So all of my training and debriefs of active shooter events over the years I've been doing law enforcement have showed me that barricading the door and using the furniture in the room or a person's body weight, while that does is it keeps the door closed, so it gives the people in that room a greater chance of survival in an active shooter. Mm. The shooters don't necessarily want to kind of break down doors to get you. Okay. So this is so important, and that's why we go over this in so much depth. Most shootings are such a surprise that a lot of time people are caught in a room and they have to learn how to hide and barricade, and that's their only option.
Right. One of the examples in our training that we talk about is in 2007, there was a student at the Virginia Tech University, and he entered a building full of classrooms and started shooting. And the first classroom he went to, the teachers and students had barricaded that room. They locked the door, they put furniture in front, they used their body weight, and when the shooter went to open it, he couldn't open it. So he just shot a few rounds into the door and moved on to the next classroom where the students and the teacher were hiding under desks, and he was able to walk right in and cause violence. So one of the things that we learned from that is if you can slow them down, if you can make them work a little bit harder, they're going to most likely pass you by. Go to someplace else that you can use it. If you're in a location where you don't have a lock on the door, like Troy said, body weight, you can have people sit against the door really low and cause that slowing them down. They want to move as fast as possible. So the next question is, how do we barricade?
Yeah, so barricading the door is you just want to put everything that you have in that room against it. You just want to make that door very, very difficult to push open, whether it's by force or no force. We don't want a shooter to go into a room with victims in there and be able to access that room fast. So use all the furniture, use your body weight, hold the door closed. Anything you can that can keep that door closed if the shooter were to push on it.
And I think that one thing is really interesting when you talk about using your body weight is how you tell people to get low.
Yeah, so most of the time we have shooters will shoot from their waist to their chest high. In that normal area is where most shooters are going to shoot. So the lower you get to keep that door closed, the better off you're going to be if they decide to shoot through the door.
I thought that was interesting. So what is the difference between cover and concealment?
So cover is when you utilize whatever you're hiding behind, and that object can actually stop the bullets that are being fired at you. Concealment is something different.
Like the palm tree.
Like the palm tree in Las Vegas, yes. Right. If the bullets would have hit the palm tree, then the palm tree would have stopped them. Concealment is something what we used in Las Vegas we used a hut, and that hut had corrugated metal. Well, corrugated metal isn't going to stop the bullets. Mm-hmm. So the bullets are going to go through. But what happens is the shooter can't see you, so that in essence, they're kind of guessing at where you are. So you have a greater chance of them missing you if they have to guess where you are behind that concealment.
Okay. That's really great. That's like when you have a really good hiding place when you're little. They don't know where you are. How can you choose which office or room is best to prepare for a barricade room at your business or your house in case of an event?
So when you pre-plan a barricaded room, you want to make sure that the room's door is outward swinging. So that's the number one thing, is the outward swinging. You don't want somebody to be able to walk up on an inward swinging door and kick it and it just flies open. So an outward swinging door, they can't use their weight or a kick to get through that.
So you want it swinging out into the hall, out and away from where you are.
Away from the room. So an outward swinging door is, if you're in your office, when you open that door, the door will open to the hallway, not to your office.
Okay, that's great.
You also want a secondary exit. So one of the most important things that everybody trains on as officers, and how we talk about to civilians, and how Shannon and I train our company, is that you have to have a secondary exit if you're pre-planning a barricade room. Because if the suspect is trying to get through the door and they're really using up time to get through that door, you guys can sneak out the secondary exit and get out of there. And by the time they get through that primary door, you guys are already gone. And that's really what you need. And for that, if you have a door that's an exit on your secondary exit, obviously easy, open the door and walk in or walk out. If you have a window inside that pre-planned barricade room, you're going to need a window break so that you can break that window and get ready to exit if you need to immediately.
Okay. And are there any other things that you would recommend to have in a barricade room besides a window break?
Yeah, so heavy furniture is very important because you can put that up against the door. Now, you have an out-swinging door, so you're not really barricading the door. But what you are doing is you're putting more objects between you, the door, and the wall. So if the person were to shoot through the wall or the door, the more objects they're going to stop those bullets at that area and not let them get through to you. The second thing you want to do is you want to put a phone in that room because a lot of times people are just leaving their cell phones and they're running to a barricade room. So get a phone in there so you can talk to first responders. And then you're going to need a stop the bleed kit or multiple stop the bleed kits, because if somebody's injured and they get to the barricade room, you want to be able to hold that medical treatment and keep them alive. You don't want them bleeding out. If you have the stop the bleed kit, you're going to save their life and they can stay for hours. I got shot in my leg and I didn't get medical attention for 5 hours. So we can, if we get shot, doesn't mean we're going to die. We just need those stop the bleed kits. And then a deadbolt, obviously, on the door. A deadbolt is always good. So if somebody, just the handle locks aren't as strong as a deadbolt. So.
Okay. And just to recant back on what we talked about last month, if you are running out, right, using your second exit, you want to assess and make a plan before you run. So don't forget that. That's second. Yeah, it's the second part. It's really important. So make sure you do that too. Why is it important to learn what type of bullets can penetrate which objects in the place of business or your home?
Yeah, it's really important. If you can either look it up on YouTube, you can watch people shoot bullets and you're going to see what they shoot at and how bullets penetrate certain objects. Most structures are made up the same material, whether it's your house, your business, even warehouses. They have the drywall, the wood, and all the insulation. So bullets will go through that, some better than others. And any object in between you and the bullet is better than no object. But the reality is, if you can understand how the bullet goes through 2 panes of drywall, then you're going to know that standing on the wall next, the wall that's adjacent to the shooter on the outside is probably not the wall you want to stand on. So understand those kind of things. And then one of the things that we talked about just a couple seconds ago was we're putting that furniture up there. And understand, if you put the more furniture, the more hard objects you put on that wall where the shooter is, if he fires through that wall, it's going to hit those objects and stop the bullet. So learn your ballistics.
And one of the great stories that I like to talk about when we're talking about Hyde is what happened at the water treatment plant.
Oh, the utility plant in Virginia Beach.
Yes.
Yes. So the utility It was a great, it's kind of a good story, but the shooter goes into his place of business and he's there to harm people. And as he's doing the shooting, there was a couple of workers that were trapped in an office. They didn't get, it was too fast for them to actually close the door. So what they did was they shut off the lights, shut their phones off, and hid under the desk. And the shooter just walked right by because he thought that the office obviously looked abandoned. So he just walked by. He didn't actually search, right, which is common for shooters. They're not really going to waste time on searching those nooks and crannies that people can hide in. They're looking for people who are an easy target, somebody that's right in front of them.
And so if say we're in like a large office and it's huge and we can't run, we're kind of trapped in there. The door, we lock it, but is it safe to like turn over desks, or what would be your best example to do in those situations? Like if it's a large area.
So with that information, it's difficult. That's a difficult question to answer because depending on where the shooter is, obviously we're going to lock the doors. We're going to barricade in that location, barricade all the doors if they're in swinging. Make sure you're putting, if you can identify what side of the office the shooter's on, you want to put all the furniture towards that side. You want to get low, low as possible, because again, shooters are more likely to shoot from the waist to chest high. So if the lower you are, the less likely if a bullet does fly through the wall, it's going to hit you. And then get ready to fight. I mean, you don't have a secondary exit, but in all essence, if this person comes in, you have to make a plan with everybody in that room. If this person comes in, we are going to attack the attacker and we are going to defeat him.
And next month, we're going to talk about how to fight. And it doesn't just mean put up your dukes, but how you're going to fight. And there's one more question before we leave you that I'd like Troy to talk about. And it's a very hard question to face. But what if you're barricading and someone comes knocking at the door that's saying it's one of your employees?
Yeah, once you barricade the door, don't open it up unless it's the police. And there are different ways to do that. You're going to call 911. If the cops are outside and they're banging on the door saying it's the police, you call 911 and say, have the officers outside this door explain the door to me, describe the door, and then maybe you can open it up. Trust me, if you ever open that door, we will rip the door down before we leave you. So we're not just going to leave you there. We will check on you and make sure you're okay. And if it happens to be we rip the door down, then we rip it down. But don't open that door for anybody else, because we don't want somebody being held hostage and you open the door for one person and then everybody in that room is could face death. So we don't want that.
And I know especially as a civilian, because our hearts break all the time to try and help people and do all that. But that's very important. And I pray that none of you are ever in that kind of situation to have to make that decision, because like Troy's saying, it could be one person or you could be jeopardizing everybody in that room. So again, always assess, make a plan, and then you're either going to run or, like we talked about today, hide, leave your phones, don't worry about it, and get yourself safe. So next week, Denise Souza will be joining me, and she's from Be the Match, and she's going to discuss the common myths of bone marrow and stem cell donations, because I know there's a lot out there. Like, I think it would hurt, but she says, don't worry about it, and how you can potentially save a life by joining the registry. So I think it's going to be really interesting and enlightening. I can't wait to hear about that. So thank you, Troy, for being here again.
Thank you.
So much fun to have him give us his insight and learn something new every day. So thank you for listening so much to Passionate World Talk Radio. You've just been listening to the most important 15 minutes of your day with me, Shannon Zeman. And you can listen to this podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And remember, with knowledge, you have the power.